Hey viewers, it's another episode of PLM Talks. I'm your host, PL McMillan, and with me today is TJ Price. Now, TJ is a corporeal being currently located in Raleigh, North Carolina with his handsome partner of many years, and his ghosts live in northeastern Connecticut, southern Maine, and North Brooklyn. His work has appeared or is forthcoming in Nightmare Magazine, Pidgeonholes, the Bear Creek Gazette, the NoSleep Podcast, and various anthologies. He can be invoked at either tjpricewrites.com or via the blue board and he provided a pronunciation key because he heard about my reputation and watch me still butcher it. Eor?
Got it.
Okay, but I'm still going to spell it. So at EERIEYORE. That's on Twitter. Failing that, one can make a circle of chalk on the floor, stand in the center, and burn a photograph of a loved one until all that remains is ashes. Are you a cat? Because cats like to be in the circles too. Then listen for a murmuring from within the walls and leave your message after the sound of the screb. Hey, TJ.
Hi.
Thanks for putting so many different things I had to pronounce in there. My God.
Really
haven't you watched PLM Talks before? You had to have.
I had a similar thing happen when I went on another podcast, and I have yet to actually fix the bio for so actually be able to read it out loud. It reads quite nice, but when you say it out loud, it doesn't quite translate.
No, it's pretty good. I feel like I get excited and I stumble over things, which is also what leads to me mispronouncing things. So I don't think it's wholly your fault, just some of it.
Okay.
So yeah, dear viewers, TJ and I are actually, I would say long-term friends at this point. We're in a couple writing groups together. He's beta read my stuff. I'm a fan of his writing. And one thing he's really good at in the Discord channels is I often ask writing craft questions as a side effect of doing the Dead Languages podcast, and he provides really comprehensive answers. So thanks, Tej.
Thank you. I'm happy that they are good.
Do people ever actually call you Tej, like TJ, but in one?
Only
Tej?
online, which is very odd to me. Only, I think, like maybe 2 people have started doing that, just Tej.
Well, it's me now, Tej.
Tej. It's a little odd to have a nickname for initials.
You're saying that to Plim?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good point. I like Plim better than Tej, though.
Tej.
Like, I don't know.
Tej. It sounds like a weird, like, angry bird sound. Tej.
Tej. Yep.
Getting off topic. So today I brought TJ Price on because we're talking about his upcoming novelette that's coming out from Spooky House Press, and that's The Disappearance of Tom Nero. That's coming out May 16th.
Yep.
Oh, off the top of my head.
Awesome. That means it's working.
Yeah, the word. So we're going to be talking about general writing and about the book. We will be keeping it as spoiler-free as possible because this will be coming out prior. If you're interested in getting the book, which I would definitely recommend, the link for the pre-orders will be in the description below, so check it out. So let's talk about writing. Yeah! Okay, so let's dive into the background of Tej. Why don't you let us know how you started writing and what your writing journey has been like?
Well, I think like a lot of things, writing starts with reading. And I think...
Does it?
I think so anyway. I mean, that's where I first found out what words could do. And that's why I like to write, is I like to play with words. I think that they're really fun, and I like how they sound and look and interact, and they just do lots of interesting things, and they have a lot of power in a lot of situations. And I think I was always drawn to that as a kid. And I think reading and seeing and hearing and feeling what other people could do with those words was very inspirational for me, because I was like, I think I can do that too. I want to try. So.
Okay, well, that's the beginning. Tell us about your journey.
My journey. I have a journey. I guess I do have a journey. Yeah.
I'm assuming you didn't just start writing yesterday.
Well,
Assumably.
it feels like that sometimes, like I do feel like I just started writing yesterday, especially when I read writers that I love. I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't matter how long my journey is, I'll never get to
You can call me out by name, it's fine. Just kidding.
Don't think I haven't learned a lot from reading your stuff.
Let's not go crazy.
Oh, no. Well, so I read a lot of stuff, and even from a very small age, I was writing a lot of stuff.
So in like elementary school, like, did you have to write stories like, my summer vacation? Did
Yes.
you illustrate them yourself? I did.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I actually, in 4th grade, I wrote a story about a magical watch that allowed its wearer to time travel, and it had something to do with a twin, and he had to get to Thunder Hole in Acadia National Park in Bar Harbor, Maine.
Specific, yeah.
I don't know why. I went to Bar Harbor with my parents when I was like 2 years old. Don't remember it at all, except for there's some pictures somewhere lost to the sands of time, I'm sure. But for some reason, I was really obsessed with Thunder Hole when I was a kid, and it would show up in all my early stories, and I haven't really written about it since.
I feel like that a story already sounds more complicated. Like in 6th grade, I wrote about a haunted house, and like blood came from the walls, and there were skeletons in the closet, but the skeletons were already always covered in blood, and like the family was trying to escape the house, but there was blood everywhere and like ghosts and skeletons.
Hey, it's hard to escape a house where there's blood everywhere. You're slipping and you're falling.
No, you're just slipping. It's an ocean nightmare. Who designed this? But the blood's on the mop already, and there's a skeleton using it.
Now I want to see a haunted house movie that's just about the fact that people can't leave the house because they just slipping on the blood. It's everywhere.
I'll write it for you. Don't worry, I got you.
Call it House of Blood.
Yes, just keep it simple. Okay, so you started writing young, but how about when did you start trying to get published?
So off and on, I've been writing all my life, but it wasn't really until the pandemic began that I really had a chance to consider it. I'm very, very fortunate that my husband works as hard as he does to support both of us. So I actually had to leave my job when COVID came down. I was in healthcare, and we fled New York City, my husband and I, to the relative safety of his parents' house down in Curie Beach in southern North Carolina, kind of like Wilmington area. And we kind of weathered the pandemic there for most of the summer. And it wasn't really until I had nothing to do that I started picking up books that I hadn't read before, and short story collections. Like the first two that leaped to mind were Nathan Ballingrode's North American Lake Monsters and Michael Wehunt's Greener Pastures. And when I read both of these collections, I don't know, something just like, I really don't know. I really cannot explain what the prose of those collections did to me. But the minute I finished them, I was like, okay. I want to do this. This is awesome. And I got super excited about it. And I started trying to write my own stuff. I ended up participating in a Camp NaNoWriMo. It was in April, I believe. And I wrote a 75,000 word novel. It's awful. It is like garbage, but I did finish it. And because I finished it, I was able to look at new work and be like, okay, hey, if I can finish a 75,000 word novel, as shitty as it is, maybe I can do short stories too. So I started writing some short stories. I think the first place I submitted to, like any new writer, I went to Google and was like, horror magazines for publication, like weird magazines, dark magazines. And of course, the dark leapt to the top of the list. So I'm relatively sure that the first submission I ever sent was a 9,000 word story about a man who had just quit smoking cigarettes and developed an itch on the back of his head concurrently. And then there was some body horror involved. It is not a good story. The Dark rejected it as...
How soon? The Dark is famous, like 2 minutes?
Actually,
30 seconds?
I've never looked. I think it was like a day or so. Now that I think,
you had a whole day. It took them that long to read the 9,000 words. Like, let's be real.
I probably, yeah. I mean, I read a lot of submissions for various places, and I don't think I would have read past the second or third page of that. It's just like, okay, cut to the chase, buddy. But you know, you gotta take your lumps when you're starting. You gotta figure out what you're trying to do. You gotta marshal your tools and your craft. You gotta read. You gotta do all this kind of crazy stuff. So, I mean, when it comes to submissions and stuff like that, it's such a gamble, and it's always such a lottery that you can make your writing as good as you possibly can, and you can be the best writer there is, and you're still going to get rejected. And I didn't figure that out until about halfway through the 2+ years I've been writing now. So I feel like once everybody kind of hits that level, it's like a rite of passage. It's like, okay, all right, rejections suck. We're moving on. We're still writing. We're doing all this stuff. So I guess that's the journey.
I mean, that's a good track record. Like, so you started 2 years ago and you've already gotten quite the resume of publications plus this book. I mean, that's pretty cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
It's very validating.
Yeah.
And I really like that there's a place that in the world, there's many places, there's a lot of places in the world where I can put my stuff and people can look at it and read it. And I'm really glad that the majority of it is available to read online for free. That I don't know. I'm just very excited to be like, hey, you know, you like the same stuff I like, and I like the same stuff you like, and you've let me read your stories. Can I show you one of mine? And oh, where can I go look? And I'm like, well, it's on my website. There's just a list, and anyone can just go like look and read it. And I just think that's really cool. So.
And it was really exciting because we were actually in a NoSleep podcast together recently.
Yes. That is such a good story. My coworker listens to the NoSleep podcast like regularly, and when she told me, or when I told her that I had a story coming out, and she was like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to listen! I'm so excited!" And then I found out that we were sharing the podcast, and I was like, "You have to hear the story. It's gonna blow your mind! Like bees, man." Anyway, I don't want to spoil the story, but Buzzkill, if any of Plim's listeners don't know, is the story, and you should go listen to it.
Season 19, episode 6, I want to say.
Yes, I think that's
right. So you can check. We're both in there. My story is Buzzkill, and yours is Stasis.
Yes.
Look at my brain.
It's so good.
But I remember you like DM'd me on Discord, and I hadn't even checked my email, so I didn't know I was in yet. And you were like, "We're in this episode," and I was like, "What?" And then I checked, and I'd seen like the confirmation. I was like, "Ah!"
I was so excited because I was just scrolling back to be like, "Hey, I wonder what other stories are in here." And then they were like, "Buzzkill by P.L. McMillan," and I was like,
so excited. I love hearing my stories come to life as like audio adaptations. It's always so much fun to hear somebody else reading it. But yeah, so check that out. Again, his story is Stasis and NoSleep Podcast season 19, episode 6.
Yes.
All numbers. Okay, so tell us what your writing process is like. Are you a mood board kind of person? Do you like music? Do you like silence? Are you crazy like me and you have a movie on in the background? Are you crazy like Jolie Tumajan and she dictates into her phone like a crazy person? Who are you like? Tell us.
I have a lot of different methods. I don't know that I've ever found a surefire way to ensure that I actually sit down and write when I want to write. I find that intentionality often muddies my like inspiration for some reason. I sit down.
What an artist thing to say. I can't be intentional because it ruins the inspiration.
I just don't get it. I just don't understand like why. I get my little mechanical keyboard and I set it down and I open up the Microsoft Word and the blank page is right there. I put focus mode on, so it's just me and the page, man. It's just me and the page and the keyboard, and I get all set up and I'm like, okay. Oh, fuck. I have nothing to write about.
Have you tried having a movie on in the background?
Yes, actually, in college, I wrote a 2-act full-length play with the TV on in the background, music playing on my computer, and what was the other input? I can't remember. I just had like stacks of books and like one of those rotisserie chickens and like a 2-liter bottle of
rotating at the time. You're like
everything on at the
it.
same time. So I get that, like I get that, and I love the idea of like having something on in the background that you sort of like draw from, because you're like you don't really
no,
notice
for me it's like a distraction.
Really?
Yeah, so when I'm like typing and like I get to a point my inner editor is like, wow, this sucks, you suck, maybe you should just quit. Then I'll like pay attention to the movie, and then so I can't pay attention, and then I'll like be watching the movie and I'll be like, oh yeah, and then my character would do this. And it's like a way to trick my brain. Like I'm like, look, brain, please.
Oh my God.
You know?
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. And so that's why everyone says I'm crazy, but I don't actually pay attention to the movies. So it has to be a movie I've either seen or it's like a stupid movie. So like when I wrote 8,000 words in one night, I went through 3 movies. They're all 90 movies I'd already seen. It was like The Faculty,
Yes.
Stepford Wives, and
the one with Nicole Kidman or the
Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Disturbed Behavior.
Okay, cool.
So like I just had it on, and whenever my brain would be like, why are you doing this? I would just watch for a bit and I'd be like, oh nice, like crazy teachers. And I'd be like, oh yeah, and then she would do this, you know? It was like a way of tricking my brain.
I love that movie. It's got such a great cast. Clea Duvall is fantastic in that movie. I love watching her.
She's a babe.
That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. Like
you should try it.
Critical eye. I think my biggest problem with that is that I have a really hard time choosing movies. Like I have a executive dysfunction where I just stare and stare. Like, what do I want to watch? Like, what do I want to select to put on? Like, it's hard for me to just make a choice.
See, it's easy because like I know it has to be a movie I've seen before or a movie I won't care about. So then it's like any old movie on Shudder will do. And like to be fair, sometimes I'll get like too invested and I'm like, this is a good movie. I shut it off and I switch to a bad movie.
Okay.
Like it's that easy, yeah. And like you can go through TV shows you've seen before. Like if you're a fan of Buffy, you could go through all of that.
Okay,
you know?
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, because you already know the plot, so you're not going to miss anything, and you can go in and out of the episodes. But anyways,
no, that's a really solid idea.
Try that.
I think that's a really interesting idea. The idea of distracting your critical eye so that your creative eye can work unconstrained. I think that's a really smart tool.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll put on movies related to what I'm writing. Like if I'm writing like a haunted house story, I'll put on a haunted house movie. So if I get distracted, then I'm just looking at another haunted house.
Right, and you have
my haunted house should also have gargoyles. Yeah,
long staircases with curtains.
Yeah. Hell House LLC. Wait, shit, that's already been done.
No, that's a really cool idea. I'm gonna try that.
Let me know what you think.
I have noticed that when I'm writing or when I'm trying to achieve like a flow state, and I put music on, the music has to be like what Brian Eno would call furniture music. Like it just has to be kind of just noticeable enough that I know it's there. But the minute I start paying attention to it, it gets a little dicey. And I really think that it has to do with the fact that while I'm writing, I hear the words that I'm putting down on the page in my brain. Mm-hmm. And I hear like the cadence of the words and like how I'm putting together certain sounds of certain words or how I'm making a repetition on purpose. And I feel like sometimes if I listen to music or if I have something on, it distracts my creative eye as well and kind of deafens me to the process that I'm working on. I don't know if that's true or not. All I know is that that's a fear I have.
I'm the opposite because I don't like listen to the cadence of my sentence. I picture the scene in my head like a movie and then I write that scene on the page.
I think that's entirely valid, and I think that's beautiful. I
should hope it's valid. My God,
I did not mean to imply that. I did not mean to imply that. I think that there are different types.
I'll see you at Stoker with my dueling gloves.
To bring my shield.
I feel like I could take you. I'm pretty scrappy.
I would just lay down and let you. I would just. It's okay.
You would go like possum, and I'd be like, "Ew, I don't want dead meat."
Yeah, that's how we survive.
Yeah.
I think I forget where it was that I read it first. It might have been in Wonder Book. I think the Jeff Vandermeer brilliant workbook and full of awesome stuff. They talk about different styles of prose, and they talk about like invisible prose, which is more about like narrating what's being seen, almost like the clear lens of the camera eye, like watching what's going on. And then there's like muscular prose, there's visible prose, like there's prose that like does stuff on the page within itself.
Are you saying your prose is a beefcake?
No.
You beefcake over there, TJ? You beefy?
Farthest thing from beefcake. And I don't know. I think it just really matters what your intention is as a writer, like what you want to do with the tools that you have. And I don't think I enjoy all different types of prose across the board. I love all kinds of different, I read a short story recently in which the writer didn't use any scene breaks at all, even when scene breaks were like traditionally narratively called for. And it created a really interesting effect of like, just sort of time jumbling into everything. And the only way that you could tell that time had passed was because of a repeated structured sentence that would, it was like a one sentence and then the next sentence would mirror it. And it would be the same thing all the way through, like scene after scene after scene. I forget, I think it was by Evan Lavender Smith, I think is the name of the author. I can't remember the name of the story. It was about therapy and medications and how awful the dangers of overprescribing are.
Okay.
I think that's what it was called.
Well, we'll get into more of this later because this does actually relate to the disappearance of Tom Nero. Pre-order it now, link in the description below. But so you sit down, you have maybe some music on, and you struggle with a blank page. How do you overcome it?
Well, I'll let you know when I get there.
Okay.
That's
fair.
I think right now my idea is to, I'm going to try to impose limitations on myself. I think that I often work best when I have like the rules of a game to sort of play with. Like I was just talking to my friend Richie the other day, and we were both feeling kind of frustrated about writing in general. And I had woken up and I'd like the coffee was hitting my bloodstream, and I was like, hey, let's both write a thing about the letter V. Why not? That could be fun. So I'm still playing with that idea, just like just take a random letter and kind of associate from there and see what comes of it. Kind of like the old Bradbury list making technique. You just make a list of nouns and then like go from there. So we'll see.
Okay. And so this kind of leads into, since we're already talking about it, what's your biggest struggle as a writer?
Biggest struggle as a writer.
Yeah, I feel like I asked you this as one of my big writing questions in the Discord.
It's hard to name just one.
I know. Top three.
But I would probably say my biggest struggle is moving on. It's really easy for me while I'm in the middle of drafting to go back to the things that I've written and notice like, oh, I reused a word there, or this comma needs to be moved, or this, oh no, this needs to be M dash, it's not semicolon. Like stupid, like.
Ew, who uses semicolons in fiction?
I'd use both. I use a healthy, liberal mixture of both.
You don't do comma splice?
I do try to avoid comma splices myself.
I see how it is, Tej.
I can appreciate them when they're used in a way, but I try to avoid them.
Solomon Force, he like reviewed one of my stories in the That's What I Call Horror, the 90s anthology.
And the Return to Gray Springs Blockbuster Blues?
Yes. And the first thing he said in his review, besides like, this is my favorite story, was I had to get over the fact she used a comma splice in the first sentence. And I was like,
wow. Well,
eat it.
In the first sentence, that's kind of like judging a TV show by its pilot, which we all know you never do.
Well, what can I say? I'm more like, I feel like I'm less worried about the style of sentence I put out. I'm a very messy artist in a way. Like, but I guess I'm also trying to emulate, oftentimes it's first person, so I'm trying to emulate internal thoughts. So I think my sentence structure often reflects that. So I feel like you and I are kind of opposite writers in a way.
I've definitely wondered that. Like I said, we've read a lot of our our own work, and it's funny to me because a lot of people who write one way tend not to enjoy the writing of someone who writes a different way. And I I don't know. I don't really have that issue with your work. I just think your ideas are so interesting, and your characters are pretty vibrant. And I always find myself kind of like, oh man, like this idea is really cool. Like I want to know more about that. Like your short story collection. Again, Buzzkill. The idea alone is just like, it's pretty intense. You're like, wow, that's cool stuff. And there, what's the other, Buried 6 feet above, the one with the
2 feet above.
2 feet above, yes. Yeah. The whole time I was like, I wasn't even thinking about the prose. I was watching a movie in my head. I didn't want to watch the movie that was in my head because it was so terrifying. But yeah, definitely, I can appreciate like the value of a good idea, as well as like deliberate prose, if that makes any sense. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
I feel like you've beta read my stuff before, and I feel kind of bad because I know like you probably went into it and saw my sentences and were like, what the fuck was she on?
No, absolutely not. No, definitely not. I mean, a couple places, but no, definitely.
Yeah, a couple. I would believe more than a couple places. Let's be real here.
I just beta read your. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to.
It's the cryptid from Confirmed Sightings, Eye of Moth.x. Yeah. Yeah, so TJ's helping. He actually did the second round to help me with it. So it went through a first round, and then he did a second round just to make sure I hadn't missed anything. So thank you, TJ.
No, it's my pleasure. Everyone's going to really enjoy it. I think it's a really solid, it's a really cool concept. It's an interesting idea.
Thank you, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about how amazing you are.
I always talk about other people whenever
I know. I'll get you back on track. So your biggest struggle as a writer?
Is editing when I should be drafting.
Yeah. Yes. And I've heard that a lot. A lot of people struggle with like their internal editor while they write. I personally won't edit until I've hit the end because I feel like I won't finish something. So I definitely have that. That's why I do the whole TV thing. But I could see that about you because from the stuff I've read from you, it is very deliberate. It is very careful. Whereas like mine, it's like I throw Jello at the wall. Yours is a very like delicate souffle of prose, if we're going with food analogies.
Prose, I love that.
There you go. I called Carson's prose meat lace. So
meat lace?
Yeah.
Meat lace.
Yeah. So
wait, so like somebody makes like tats a lace out of meat?
Yes.
I kind of like, no, I like that.
There you go. I'm away with words.
Meat lace. Wow.
Okay.
Like a meat doily. You could put like a little.
Imagine you put you put your steak on top of the meat doily. It's all wet and moist and juicy.
Oh, God.
It probably makes this noise.
Yep. Probably does.
Yeah.
It makes me think of have you ever seen that uncomfortable sculpture? I want to say it's K Sage. It's a teacup on a little saucer with a spoon, and it's all made of fur.
Yes, and I hated it.
It's horrible.
Yeah. It's like that image where people I'm hoping is Photoshop, but it's like a banana, but it's made out of skin and it's got like hair on it. Oh, I'll send it to you.
I need to see it. I need to see it so I can never unsee it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Don't you worry. But what is the one piece of advice you'd give to a new writer? Yeah, big question.
I feel terrible giving advice to anyone, let alone new writers.
Oh, shush.
No, I would just be afraid of being like overly prescriptive or like dampening their enthusiasm for the art, or like, I don't want to crush anyone's dreams, but in my so-called journey that I'm on, a lot of the time it can be somewhat negative. It can be, a little disheartening. It can be at times downright depressing. But I guess my advice would be to forge on. Just keep trying. Just, I don't know, don't stop, I guess, unless you really feel like you should, and then maybe consider stopping. But I don't know.
Well, I feel like, I don't feel like that's depressing. I've said things like similar sentiments on various interviews and Dead Languages and even on Plum Talks. It's the fact that a lot of people think like, oh, I'll write this book and I'll become a big seller and like blah, blah, blah. But the real thing is like writing is a skill and it takes a lot of time and it is a lot of foraging through. It's a lot of times it's not fun. But if it's your passion, I guess you kind of just make it work, really. But I mean, if we want to add a silver lining, you admitted to our viewers that you only started writing at the beginning of the pandemic, and you've got publications out, and now your first book is coming out. Or is it your first book? Oh no, TJ, you're back. You're back. You're back. Oh my God, you know what this is? It's the screb. It's the screb.
Exactly. You don't even edit the episode. You can just like let it play like it is.
It's the screb. It's coming in. The screb. Okay. But you started writing at the beginning of the pandemic, and you have publications out. You have a book coming out. So there's also the end goal, like they could end up like you 2 years later, multiple publications and like books and everything. Definitely. So, but you have to work hard. You have to suffer.
You do. Everything is suffering, isn't it?
Everything is suffering.
I mean, the whole samsara idea. I guess, well, you know what? I've rethought. I do have a piece of advice. If you're interested in being published, you should read for a publication. That was the thing. I
feel added right now.
What?
I feel added right now. I've never done that.
You've never done it?
No.
It surprises me. I don't know why.
I in the beginning of my writing career, I was kind of in a vacuum where I wasn't in a writing group. So I just wrote on my own and edited on my own and hoped for the best and started getting published. I didn't even know there was such thing as slush writers for ages. And then when I did, I didn't realize you could just apply. I thought like you had to be qualified in a way. So like Carson has also been like you need to like start slush reading. But at this point, like I don't know if I'd have time.
Yeah.
Like I have a podcast, a YouTube channel, and all this like shit going on. Oops. All this stuff going on.
Are we not supposed to be profane?
No, I didn't mean to say that. But yeah, I've like so much stuff going on that I feel like I don't know if I'd have time to slush read because it sounds like a lot of work. Oh no, TJ. Wipe my nose. TJ.
Am I back?
Oh my God.
Back.
Every time that happens, I'm just gonna put the word scrub across the screen.
Yes, it'll be amazing.
I'm just gonna like advertise for you.
I don't know why that's happening. I'm sure it has something to do with my husband playing his game across the hall.
Is he playing some Fortnite or
I think it's
Call of Duty?
The Gathering Arena.
Magic the Gathering online. Yeah, that's a good one.
He's very good at it. I often see the word winner across everyone's
good job, husband.
Yes, good job.
Good job, husband. Conquer them.
Forgot what I was. Oh yes, slush reading. Yes. I try really hard not to call it slush reading. And I just messed up there. Because
I mean, I think that's the technical term, right? But it's kind of dismissive of the.
It is. It feels a little
initial reading, but like if we're being like industry fluent, it is slush reading. But I agree with you. Like if you want to read other people's stuff and see what's okay to get in, what's okay to reject, then yeah, slush read. From what I understand, it's very easy to apply and get in, right?
I'm sure there's always going to be publications, and I have a feeling that many of them will need more help maybe than they are comfortable asking for. Maybe there's a lot of independent publishers out there, and you really just kind of have to find the person who has similar taste to, like, I reach out to magazines that you enjoy reading to see if they're looking for people reading submissions. Often a well-placed email just saying, hey, I really love reading your stuff. Like, are you looking for anyone to help you read submissions in the next open period? And you may be surprised. It may prevent you from being able to submit to said magazine, but the knowledge that you'll glean is going to be far more valuable, and the experience. From
what I understand, it's also usually unpaid volunteer.
Oh yeah. It's all volunteer. I mean, don't get excited. If you're in this business for money, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah. Okay. So with all the screbs coming up on screen, let's talk about the disappearance of Tom Nero, again, coming out May 16th. Pre-order link is in the description below, so check it out. If you want to see my review, it did come out on my blog this previous Monday, so check it out. Okay, so tell us what this book, The Disappearance of Tom Nero, oh, cover, I'll Photoshop it in, don't you worry. Tell us what it's about and keep it spoiler free if possible. Just give us the gist.
Well, this is what I've been telling my coworkers when they ask me, and my day job.
Pretend I'm a coworker. Wait. I've got my water cooler water. Yes, tell me about your book. What's going on with you?
I wish we had a water cooler. We do not have a water cooler. It's
you know what?
We have like a 32-ounce bottle of water that I'm just like chugging on.
I'm sorry, one more time. What did that look like?
Just like this. Don't Photoshop.
I don't even need Carson around. He's made me feral.
He rubs off on all of us.
Okay, tell us what The Disappearance of Tom Nero is about.
Okay, well, so at its core, The Disappearance of Tom Nero is about a young man who disappears. And
is his name Tom Nero?
His name is Tom Nero, believe it or not. Maybe. And it concerns the efforts of those that he has left behind to try to find him. And it may not be in either theirs or the reader's best interests.
And I will say, this was a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting it because I guess I hadn't heard about this. But the book itself has a very House of Leaves feel. And I guess I'll leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it because it was a surprise for me. So we won't go into details, but I will say if you tried to read House of Leaves and you're like, oh, this is too crazy, The Disappearance of Tom Nero is way more consumable. And I mean that as a compliment. And if you've ever thought, should I get into the House of Leaves? Read The Disappearance of Tom Nero first. And then if you like that, get the House of Leaves.
Oh, that is such a balm to my heart. That may be my favorite book of all time. And
I actually really loved it too. I know a lot of people have said it's hard to read, but I loved it. I love the feeling of the found document. It's like you get this folder and you're like, what did I get here? And you're digging through it. That's also what The Disappearance of Tom Nero felt like to me. I was like, ooh, what have I got here? Ooh.
Yes, I love that. I love a good puzzle. I love a good mystery. I love clues, and but I love more than anything a non-linear solution to the mystery. I like it when things are kind of left undone a little bit so that you have the space to kind of think about what's going on or what could be happening or maybe what did happen instead of what was told, and just all these fun ways to play with story and narrative and fiction. And House of Leaves does that so brilliantly. I think personally it's one of the only books I've read that have legitimately frightened me to read. It
was eerie. It was just unsettling because it does feel like a folder of documents you've gotten. And your book has the same feel though.
Yes.
So I guess I can't say this word, so I'll say the other word. It's footage footage. What's that word that starts with an E?
Ergodic.
No, epistolary.
Oh, epistolary.
Epistolary.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. So found footage or found documents. So if you're a fan of that, pick the book up.
It's a lot of fun elements. I'm really, really impressed with the way it all came together. It's been a true collaborative effort between myself and the publisher and the formatting person and the illustrating person and all of the things, the little pieces that have come together to make the book what it is. And I can't think of a better first experience to put my brainchild out into the world. I'm so happy that so many people have been able to bring their own particular vision to the project. It's been awesome. And
so, do you want to share your inspiration behind it?
Sure. Yeah. A big part of it, House of Leaves, for example. I mean, we've gone over that. But just in general, I really, really like reading books, short stories, literature. I like stuff that takes chances. I like stuff that plays with format. I like stuff that challenges the reader to encounter a printed text in a different way than it could have been done. When I was a kid, one of my first inspirations into starting to write poetry was E. E. Cummings. And like the first one I read was Hist Whist, which was like illustrated as like a children's book, but the like cadence of his words and the way that he spaced them and the way the stanzas were all written out. And I just thought it was so cool that there was so much you could do with words on a page. And I still am inspired by that, and probably will continue to mess with formatting and do weird stuff with words on the page for a long time. So.
And so speaking about the formatting, because it is an unusual format, can you, I guess, like, do you want to describe it a bit? Should we leave it a mystery?
No, we can talk about it a little bit. The first part of the book is the remnants of a journal that Tom Nero has left behind. And so you get a kind of sense of the character through his own words. But not only his words, these are literal, like, kind of facsimiles of pages that have been torn from a journal. And as such, there are strange doodles and various, like, ephemera just sort of scattered around the manuscript in the first part. So it's fun. It adds like kind of an immersive feeling to it, because you're not just reading, you're also looking and like extrapolating, and it's fun.
So this is unusual. Like, obviously the House of Leaves had it, but you don't often see books that have like this kind of dedication to making this found document look as realistic as possible within a book format. So what was the process like working with the press in getting your book formatted like this? Because obviously you had an artist too, you had the press, you had your own vision. Like, what was that like?
So for me, when I wrote the story to begin with, the way that I represented the illustrations and, you know, the physical parts of the story were just like kind of like dummy notes in a stage play. It's like I just put brackets. So I just imagined that the story would just be published with the brackets, like not actual illustrations. I just assumed that that was how the story would be printed out, kind of like you see facsimiles of found footage with transcripts and things like that. I just assumed that that's how the story was going to be, but it was the publisher, Robert Ottone, who, I apologize, Robert, if I got your name wrong. Ottone, right? Anyway, he was like, yeah, we're going to go all out. Like, we're going to do these illustrations. Like, he took it as like, these are instructions for the publisher, which I was like, oh, hell yeah, that's amazing. And he had an artist, Alexis Macaluso, in his friends, and she read the manuscript and she came back with this draft of like doodles. And I was like, hey, like, can we do more? Like, can I like give you a list of things to include, and like, you know, can we play with this a little bit? And she did a couple of like drafts, and they were all great. Like, it was just so much fun to like really connect with someone over something that I had created, and that they were like bringing their own talent to like make it as real as possible. So when I say it's a collaboration, it truly was in its you know, lowest format. It's such a fun experience to put together, but initially just brackets.
Yeah, and so speaking about, so obviously House of Leaves was a really big influence on this, I'd argue. What inspired you to design your book like this, or as Spooky House Press called it, a meta-textual format?
It wasn't until, well, I can't really talk about that too much because that would be a spoiler.
Keep it secret, keep it safe.
Keep it secret, keep it safe, keep it secret, keep it safe. I don't know, but there's something about the book deals a lot with the concept of invasive thoughts. As a person, I suffer from all sorts of insane anxiety, and it's because I'm hyper aware of myself and the things that I'm doing and how I could be perceived and how others perceive me, and just the, you know, normal neuroticism of a crazy person, I suppose. I don't know. But because I am that way with other people, I found myself thinking about how someone would react to a book that had that kind of element and how they would sort of take it with them. And then I started thinking about like virality, and I started thinking about like memes and mimetic thoughts things of that nature, repetitions, and that sort of married into the idea behind it. And then I was like, okay, well, we can take this one step further and make it a little bit more immersive. Then maybe the person who's reading the book will actually understand what it is to feel that anxiety of an invasive thought, and that like that's that thing you can't get out of your head. Like in the old ways, it was always like, you're so anxious, like relax. I can't tell you how many times when I was a kid, people would just be like, relax, relax, calm down. And that doesn't work. Like sometimes you just get something stuck in your head and it doesn't go away. And that is a lot of that is represented in the book.
And I feel like a lot of readers can relate to that, because I feel like probably a lot of people have anxiety, and that comes with intrusive thoughts. I know it resonated with me a lot because I also have anxiety and I have a lot of intrusive thoughts. Yay! So exciting.
Yeah.
So what do you hope your readers will take away from this book after reading it? Tough question, but I feel like you can handle it.
Yes, thank you. I feel like there's a lot of play in this book, so I really want people to have fun with it. Like I really want them to enjoy themselves, and that's why it's kind of structured the way that it is. It's not a straight like A to B to C story. It's nonlinear. There's some, experimental stuff going on, and I feel like I want people to spread it. I want them to talk about it. I want them to talk about
The Ring.
Yes.
Samara over here.
No, more than that, I think I would like it if it served as an example for people who are experimenting with different kinds of narrative qualities, different ways to tell a story. Like I want it to serve as an example that you can do fun stuff. And there's all sorts of things you can do, and that there's so many possibilities in writing and creating and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, I just feel like the sky's the limit. And I hope that someone reading this might be inspired to do something that challenges them or pushes their own limits, or, maybe, I don't know, maybe come up with something totally crazy. I don't know. Could be fun.
Yeah. And like, I guess big shout out to Spooky House Press, because like, I guess it also takes a special type of press to be like, hey, we're going to do this experimental book now,
Definitely.
Great.
Robert's been amazing. He's been amazing to work with. I've loved all of his suggestions. He's had so much passion for the project, and I got really, really lucky to find someone who was so excited about the same thing that I was, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah. All right. So again, that's The Disappearance of Tom Nero. The link is in the description below. It's out May 16th. I definitely advise that you check it out. It was a lot of fun. If you're fans of found footage, it gave, like, to me personally, it gave me House of Leaves vibes, but it also gave me the fun vibes of the Ring and Blair Witch. So if that's your type of movie too, check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. So what are you working on right now, TJ?
Well, once I get done writing about the letter V, no, I'm kidding. I am
the letter V.
The letter V.
Oh no, that's going to be spreading next.
Well, I do actually have a story in an anthology recently called Old Man Vreen, which is just green with a V, and that maybe I'll play around in that world. Anyway, but the thing I'm working on right now is I'm putting together a collection of poetry. I think I'd like to call it an uncanny guest after one of the poems in the collection. I think of an uncanny guest as being like personified death, or like anything that feels a little weird, that maybe was uninvited, came anyway, that kind of thing.
A mother-in-law, maybe.
A mother-in-law could also be an uncanny guest.
Just kidding. I love my mother-in-law.
Especially if you're not married.
Yeah.
If you're not married and
you're like, oh shit, who is this?
Were you? What year is this?
See, that's a good twist. That was well done.
Yeah. So I think that I'm working on a collection of poetry. I'm working on a collection of short pieces about grief. I am working on what was the last thing I was going to say? My brain is completely gone. Poof. I guess it's enough.
I heard that you might be editing something soon.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm very excited about that. There's so much going on that, what with the anthologies releasing soon, and
well, I think this will be a 2024 release, right?
yeah, probably maybe late 2024. I'm not sure yet, but I've gathered a bunch of people together and we are all going to write stories about liminal spaces.
Yay.
Very excited about all of the stuff. I've read a couple of the stories from some of the contributors thus far, and they're already fantastic. Drafts aren't due until like August, but some people are, and early risers, which is great. So more power to them. But I'm really excited about the potential.
That's amazing. So if you don't know what liminal spaces are, the popular back rooms theme that's been going through Reddit and indie games, that's an example of liminal spaces. To me, an airport is a liminal space.
Mm-hmm.
Always a hotel room, like in one of those big chains where they all look the same and you wake up and you're like, where am I? So liminal space kind of describes that.
Even just a hallway, somewhere that exists between two spaces.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what all the contributors decide to investigate.
Yeah. And do you have any publications coming out soon?
Yes,
Besides this one, obviously.
Besides this one, yes. Excuse me.
That's okay. My puns do that to people. Puns, jokes, terrible dad jokes. I don't know.
I love dad jokes. Puns are amazing. I love wordplay. As you'll see when you read The Disappearance of Tom Nero. Bing! Bing! Anyway, yes, I had a piece come out recently in an anthology that I helped edit called Black in Collage Macabre. It's an anthology of art horror. A lot of great names in there. Amazing stories. Mine is fine, but there are some amazing stories in there, like Andrew F. Sullivan, writer of the recently released The Marigold, also a great book. Everyone should check it out. Wrote a short story called Twigs that will blow your mind. It's amazing. Christy Noble has a fantastic story in that anthology, also a fantastic writer. Her collection, I recommend it more highly than I can say right now. And then after that, in June, I will have a short story called Heavy Rain in an anthology called Howls from the Wreckage. Somebody else has a story in that anthology.
Is it me?
It's you!
Yay!
And a bunch of other really fantastic writers. Very, very excited about that anthology, edited by Christopher O'Halloran. It's a man of great taste and integrity, and his editorial knowledge has been fantastic all throughout. There's going to be illustrations in that as well. We've had some super, super talented artists involved with that endeavor. I'm excited about that. I have a poem forthcoming in Nightmare Magazine, which I'm pretty excited about. It's just called Dread. I don't know when that will be released. It'll be released at some point in the future. I think that's it for now.
That's a lot, though. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, are you ready for your Plim question? I'm assuming you've seen a couple episodes of Plim Talks and you know it's always a mystery.
I love a mystery. Shoot.
Okay. So recently I've been doing, and my last guest died from his choice. So Eric Raglan chose poorly.
Okay.
He didn't actually die. YouTube, I didn't kill anyone. He died metaphorically in the scenario I provided. I did not kill anyone. Okay, so I'm gonna name 3 monsters for you. You get to pick one to be on your team, and then you fight the other team. And you have to explain to me why you picked the one that you did and why you think you'd survive.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you classic Dracula. The classic?
Vlasic?
No, classic. Like the OG Dracula.
I thought you said Vlasic, like the pickles.
He's been pickled. He's bread and butter Dracula. Okay.
I hear he's a really big deal in Transylvania.
No, because it always has garlic in it. God, you're already gonna fail this, Tej. Guys, shucks. Okay, classic Dracula, the classic Wolfman.
Okay.
or Frankenstein's monster. So you only get one to fight alongside you, and you have to fight the other two. And then you have to explain to me why you picked the one that you did and why you think you'd survive.
Well, I would pick the Wolfman because he's the only one that isn't scared of fire, and then we would just burn the other two.
Okay. So I want to say you're assuming that you're fighting on a full moon.
I don't think it matters.
No, classic Wolfman is a full moon dude.
So what would he be if it wasn't a full moon? Just a dude?
Human. He'd just be a dude.
So two humans with blowtorches.
Okay, fair. But the original Frankenstein's monster wasn't really that afraid of fire. You're thinking of the monster Frankenstein.
You said Frankenstein's monster, right?
Yeah, from the book.
Right.
He wasn't chased out of a windmill with like pitchforks and flames.
I thought it was classically established that he was afraid of fire, that fire was like his undoing.
I mean, as much as any human is afraid of fire, because he was more like a human in the book, right? Like a monstrous human, but a very intelligent human, just kind of disfigured. Yeah. So like he'd be afraid of fire as much as you and your non-werewolf friend, depending on the time of the attack.
What about blowtorches though?
I mean, yeah, obviously that you could use that against people. That's a good argument. And also if you were sly and you attacked in the sun, obviously Dracula would be useless. Okay. I feel like you made the good choice here.
I feel like I could have also chosen Dracula to be on my team, allowed him to turn me.
Okay, but then if you got attacked during the daytime, you'd both be messed. Honestly, I thought you were going to pick Frankenstein's monster, who had the level of intelligence of a human, but extra strength.
See, that would have been the smart choice.
And he would be good in day or night, and regardless of moon cycle.
But he's so depressed and sad and self-involved. He'd probably.
Oh my God, he's a horror. Like that's the same thing as a horror writer.
Yeah, so we both die. Why do I want two of those? Two of those isn't great.
Okay, I will say I think you have a good chance of surviving with Wolfman. I like your argument that as a human he'd still be able to fight with the blowtorches, assumably that you have. You know,
I go everywhere with a blowtorch. I never leave home without it.
Yeah, of course. Everyone has it. Everyone goes to Stoker with their Stoker blowtorches, all bedazzled.
Yes, exactly. We're all gonna get them like labeled, and like I'm gonna autograph everyone else's blowtorch. It's fantastic.
Exactly. There you go. Okay, I'll say you survived this. Yes. You might have lost a limb.
Is there like a jingle or a theme song? Like, is there like an audience that applauds?
Oh, okay. Hi, yay, you survived. Does that work?
Yeah, that's great. I feel vindicated.
That's like my dead languages thing I do all the time. I don't know why. There you go. You can have it.
I love it.
All right. Well, again, The Disappearance of Tom Nero is out May 16th. The link is in the description below. Make sure you check it out, especially if you're a fan of found footage type movies, or you like the House of Leaves, or you're not sure about the House of Leaves and you kind of want, to dip your toe in. Get The Disappearance of Tom Nero. And thank you, TJ, for coming on to Plim Talks and joining me and putting up with me and always being a good friend.
It was my pleasure. I had a great time. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, and bye.
Bye.